It has been quite the career for my broadcast partner, John Kelly. 30 seasons calling the NHL, and since 2005, the well-respected TV voice of the St. Louis Blues on Fox Sports Midwest.
Shifley can't clear it. Bozak in front, they score! Schwartz tipped it in! I do not believe it!
John has carried on a tradition handed down from his dad, the late Dan Kelly, a broadcasting legend and Hall of Famer. Dan Kelly was the beloved radio and TV voice of the Blues for 21 years. He was the soundtrack to hockey in St. Louis in the 70s and 80s.
Breaking in to Hunter. Hunter shooting. Rebound. Wickenheiser scores!
Following in his dad's footsteps, John Kelly has been behind the mic for thousands of games. But unlike his dad, who called 16 Stanley Cup finals, John never had that chance. And there was no reason to think that that would change this past season, even if the Blues somehow ended up playing for hockey's holy grail. You see, once the first round of the playoffs end, so does our run. The NHL's national TV partner gets exclusive rights to the remaining rounds. But just as the Blues embarked on this magical run to win the Cup, something special happened in the radio booth. Soon after the Blues defeated San Jose to advance to the Stanley Cup final, Chris Kerber, the team's radio play-by-play voice, pulled John aside. Chris told John they'd be working the series together. For each game, Chris would yield his spot behind the mic in the second period so John could finally call a Stanley Cup final.
And here to handle Game 7 of the 2019 Stanley Cup Final, period number 2, John Kelly.
Kerb's going to be shifting over the headset right now.
Goals from O'Reilly and Pietrangelo. Ready for the second period. And again, thanks to Chris Kerber for this great honor to have a chance to call the Stanley Cup Final. And Joey Vitale, hopefully a Stanley Cup winner tonight for the St. Louis Blues.
For Chris, who grew up listening to Dan Kelly, it may have been the natural thing to do. But to anyone else, it was an incredibly thoughtful and classy move.
I was so shocked that he did it, but at the same time, in hindsight, that's the kind of person Chris is. He's a really good person. He thinks of other people.
Schwartz able to take it, dropped it on back now, around in front, score! Pietrangelo with 7.
Here is as unselfish a gesture that one announcer can make for another. That tells me that in this world there are givers and takers, and that was a giving thing to do. It was a recognition of family. It was a recognition of a key time of year when someone was not going to be a part of a very important moment, and he was given a chance to be a part of that moment. Both of these guys have Stanley Cup rings, but because of the gesture of one, the other got to be a part of a very key moment, doing what he's done for so many years. I think that's special.
Shoots, and it's in! They score! It's the St. Louisan, Pat Maroon!
Remember, this is his profession. This is his life. This is how his voice will be remembered too. And for him to decide it was critical, and not just to do it for one game, but to make the commitment to John Kelly that I want you to do every game. I'm still blown away by that, but knowing the heart and the person that Chris Kerber is, none of this is a surprise.
He had every right to own the call for the entire game, and yet he stepped aside so John Kelly could get the call.
And the Blues keep it in.
It was an act of remarkable selflessness and graciousness. It was sportsmanship in the broadcast booth.
When you tie it all together, it certainly meant a whole lot to me to be part of that.
When you put your head on the pillow at night, how did you live your day? Did you put the needs of somebody else first? Did you do what you can do for somebody else? Maybe it is sharing your job. I don't know. But we need a lot more, not just in sports, but in life. So take the moment if you can, because you don't know if you're going to get another moment to make that impact.